Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The regular Joe litmus test. That's the regular Joe Rogan litmus test. If you want to get an idea on how the average dude is feeling, well then just tune in to the Joe Rogan Experience, and you'll get a healthy dose of exactly what you're looking for. The question is, what's the Rogan perspective on these witch hunt trials, especially after these 34 guilty counts? I don't think the Biden team is convincing anyone with these sham trials, certainly not convincing Joe Rogan, not convincing your average Joe. Independent voters certainly don't seem to be jumping on the bandwagon. Let's take a look at Joe Rogan's reaction. Let's have a conversation. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so Joe Rogan chimes in. Take a look.
It really is like the whole country's hypnotized. And I just think this is a perfect storm of things that are happening all at the same time. With AI emerging, China and Russia becoming buddies, us being run by a dead man. They're trying to stop this other guy from even running, and they're exposing how corrupt the democracy is. They're exposing how corrupt the system is. Just by charging this guy with 34 felonies for paying off a lady he had sex with. Like, what?
And how else would he have paid her money to
Well, it was
whatever?
the way it was written, the way it was put in a ledger. It's basically, on most situations, it would have been considered a misdemeanor. But they turned it into a felony. They trumped it up, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And then he signed like 34 different checks. So there's 34 different. The whole thing's crazy. First of all, what a cheap. I'll pay her in installments.
Yeah.
Don't give her all the money. Give her a little taste. Keep her on the hook.
Yeah. That actually makes sense, I guess, now that I think about it. Because if you pay her all at once, you could just write a book or whatever.
No, the whole deal was that she couldn't talk if she got the money, but obviously that didn't work out. Right. She got the money and still talked. Like, if you have the backing of the political party, it doesn't matter. Like, especially the party that's in charge. But what's scary is how many Democrats are willing to allow this kind of stuff to happen. But a lot of them are aware of it. There was this one lady that went viral, and she was talking about it, and she was saying, you have to understand, like, I'm not a Trump supporter, I don't like Trump, but this is really dangerous for democracy. Nobody can justify this, and nobody can say this guy should be in jail for this. It just doesn't make any sense. And especially if you wanted to look at past presidents with the same scrutiny. I mean, there's so many instances of things that you could go, and this was one of the things that Obama had said when Obama got into office. They were talking about George Bush and Dick Cheney being charged with war crimes. And he was saying, we're not going to look to the past, we're going to look towards the future. Mm-hmm. You know, like, we're not going to prosecute anybody. You imagine if when Obama got into office, if he decided to prosecute Dick Cheney and George Bush for crimes against humanity?
Yeah, crazy.
Oh, my God. You know how crazy that would be? Do you know how divided the country would be then? Well, that's the same thing kind of that is taking place now at a lesser scale, obviously, because it's not a war crime you're charging someone with. But you could charge Trump with war crimes. You could find some things that he did, especially with bombings and even what Obama did. Obama, during the administration, they dropped a drone on a U.S. citizen. No trial, no nothing. Boom. Yeah.
It's the mass red pilling of the nation. In a weird way, I guess the one thing that needed to happen for so many people to open their eyes was for Joe Biden to get elected. Piss Pants Joe just had to go and ruin everything, and now everybody's realized that economically, just because we've been living the good life doesn't mean it comes free and doesn't mean it stays forever. But of course, the economic shocks are one thing. The whole, censorship regime, fascism element, this Democrat-Soviet approach to these elections, yeah, that'll get you too. It's almost like the expensive gas got people paying attention, and now people are realizing that the Democrats, under the leadership of a dysfunctional vegetable, well, they're essentially trying to end elections. I guess with the intent of bringing in a new tradition, the tradition of installing dictators. Just as they installed Joe Biden as their presidential nominee, well, they want to do the same thing for the presidency. Arrest your political opponent and simply install Joe Biden as supreme leader, of course, for your own good, to avoid that MAGA form of fascism that doesn't actually exist. Obviously, the people see it for exactly what it is. I think Joe Rogan's analysis is probably what most normal people are thinking. I've spoken to a lot of people about this, and the first question that I always get when I'm describing the crime is, that a felony? Doesn't really seem like a big deal. Well, that's because it's not. It's a misdemeanor. But apparently now a misdemeanor is a felony crime if it was done to cover up a felony crime which Alvin Bragg essentially invented and essentially has no jurisdiction to enforce. Joe Rogan feels the same way. What is this nonsense about hush money? Why should the election end? Why should democracy end over such a trivial matter? Especially when everybody knows that many other politicians and many other presidents have done much worse and gotten away with it, or have done much worse and could easily fall prey to a bias-infected legal process in, let's call it, political enemy territory. So why set that standard? Why does Donald Trump get treated this way when Hillary Clinton can just walk away from the whole email scandal? And that's a question that a lot of people are asking. You know, like I always say, never underestimate your opponent, and certainly never underestimate the intelligence of voters. Democrats think that people are just going to read the headline, Trump guilty, Trump convicted felon, and that's it, game over, they've made their decision. But most people aren't that stupid, and regular people are having the exact same kind of conversation that Joe Rogan's having. In fact, millions of people are just directly listening to Joe Rogan. We haven't seen the numbers, but I think his early Spotify numbers, we covered it a while ago, I think he was pulling in over 11 million people, or maybe that's views or playbacks, but anyways, we're talking about a reach within the millions. You probably got a bunch of those people participating in the conversation by listening, and they get it. It's election season. People are having these conversations, whether it's at the bar, at a restaurant, at the dinner table, and for fair, honest people, it's just not clicking. You know, I've been having conversations with all kinds of people, mostly from the business world, who don't really get involved in this politics stuff, and whenever I explain it to them, or if they have a basic understanding, they all come to the same conclusion. Everybody thinks it's BS, just like the Letitia James case. If you spoke to investors, if you spoke to business people, which is honestly what I spent a lot of time doing, it never made sense to people. The guy's getting prosecuted because he took a loan based on the bank's appraisal and then paid it back with interest? What do you mean? Isn't that just basic real estate business? That can't be right. $450 million fine, that certainly can't be right. You know, people see it, and more, the people who get it, professionals, intelligent people, those who have a basic understanding of business, finances, and maybe surface level understanding of the law, well, they can see that something clearly isn't adding up. And I think that is a big reason why Trump has probably been winning with independents.
Another thing interesting in this polling was more independents said that they worry about President Biden weakening democracy than Trump, 53% to 42%.
We're up 18 points among independent voters over Biden.
Our new poll, which was conducted by SSRS, finds Trump is leading Biden, who has ample work to do with his base and with independent voters who are breaking to his GOP rival.
That same exact conversation that you just heard Joe Rogan having, well, that's the same conversation that's going to be happening thousands of times over the next 5 months across the nation, and I think it's going to have a major impact. Very few people are shocked and clutching their pearls. Oh, he's a convicted felon. Nobody seems to care. It's on with business. Trump keeps rising. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.